Hello, BookTube. Today I want to do a quick review of American Oligarchs by Andrea Bernstein and go into maybe a little bit more depth than I did on my last weekly wrap-up or weekly reads. So, American Oligarchs, the Kushners, the Trumps, and the Marriage of Money and Power is the story of how the Trumps and Kushners made their billions and how they've gradually, over the generations, become more and more oriented towards supporting policies that keep them rich and make it difficult for other people to either have a comfortable middle class living or to rise up and become rich themselves. And so the book follows the Trumps from Friedrich Trump, a German immigrant who made his fortune at first in the Pacific Northwest before returning to New York and buying real estate, and the Kushners from Ray and Joseph, who survived World War II Poland and gradually made their way to a displaced persons camp in Italy and then to the United States, and basically began building houses in New Jersey. So this is a really fascinating book and very interesting, very detailed, very well-researched book. Andrea Bernstein definitely knows her stuff. So, yeah, it really kind of shows how the some programs, Fred Trump, President Trump's father, took advantage of several Depression-era loan programs to help him finance several of his early construction projects. The Kushners were on assistance when they first came to the United States, and the same loan programs that helped Trump, I think, also helped them. And then gradually how the country sort of slowly whittled away at the programs directed at helping the neediest, the least secure members of society, while increasing support and benefits for the most wealthy, like through Reagan and Bush, and now with President Trump. So yeah, I mean, it's a really it's a very fascinating book. I mean, particularly like the characters, the families are all very interesting, and I think when Bernstein focuses on President Trump, how even though a lot of the wheeling and dealing he does, particularly with the local and state politicians in New York and New Jersey and elsewhere, you're like, I mean, it's a bit queasy, but at the same time, there's that sort of Trumpiness, I guess you could say, that kind of like, even though you can't help but sort of be impressed by some of his antics, I guess you could say. And then with the Kushners and how the family imploded. And when I said in my weekly reads wrap-up that the man on the cover was not involved in some of the more horrifying things in this book. Yeah. It was, on the Kushner side, that there was an incident about 20 years ago where Charles Kushner was using company funds for political contributions and philanthropic contributions, and his siblings were not as enthusiastic. They opposed that, and it devolved into a legal fight. And it eventually became a criminal investigation when Chris Christie, who was the U.S. Attorney for New Jersey at the time, caught wind of it. And then it devolved into some really, really disturbing sort of witness tampering. Anyway, but on the whole, I mean, this is a really, really very fascinating book. And in some ways tragic, because it's, I mean, families who benefited greatly from programs meant to help lift people up, so from basically encourage social mobility, have become champions of trying to tamp down on that social mobility. Although I do have some issues with the book. I think Bernstein needed perhaps to draw a distinction or a parallel between, say, sort of the egalitarian ideals of Depression era, well, I guess post-World War II era tax policy, and aspirations for social mobility, or kind of how social egalitarianism kind of works with like social mobility. And I think also she doesn't quite present the other side, in that very much the Trumps and the Kushners owe a lot of their success through politics, through supporting local political machines, making contacts, friendships with local politicos, local officials, and getting approved for and becoming the favored contractor, real estate developer for certain projects. And I think to a certain extent that side of the story maybe could have used a bit more focus. So I think, but overall, American Oligarchs is a very, very fascinating, very engrossing book, and I definitely highly recommend it. Yeah. So I've got another review to film here, so I will be back in a few. Thank you, BookTube.